Hey guys, I am really excited about seeing you guys again. We are going to stream live into not just the Facebook group today, but also into YouTube. So then that way we can, I don't know, reach a broader audience, right? Okay, so today's masterclass is all about body language on a first date. And it's often misunderstood, and I want to clear a few things up for you, hopefully. So what we're going to cover today is why body language is important, how it plays into your dating. It's kind of going to spill into most of the rest of your life as well. So it's more generalized than just dating in particular. What does it mean to you? And I'm also going to share with you some of my favorite nonverbal cues to look for on dates. If anyone knows me, they know that I love to go chill at local bars and watch people and totally analyze them, especially if they're on a date. But if you don't know who I am, first and foremost, let me introduce myself. My name is Andrea LaRosa. I am the founder and matchmaker at Date Smarter Services. Obviously, I have a whole slew of certifications because I feel that it's really important that I am completely educated and well-rounded in the field of dating and relationships. What we do at Date Smarter is a bunch of different stuff. So let me just give you a quick rundown in case you are not familiar with what we do. Obviously, first and foremost, we are matchmakers. I'm the main matchmaker. My team helps me find matches for people, but I am really kind of the one-woman show as far as the matchmaking goes. We offer coaching services for relationships, breakups, and dating if that's all you're looking for. We have our online courses and, of course, our dating app profile makeover. However, we are going to start doing group coaching as well. That is coming soon. We start our first one in 2 weeks, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end of our little class today. Just as a reminder too, if you are signed in and it's like your lunch break and you only have 30 minutes, don't worry, this will remain up on the Facebook group and on YouTube as well. So you can come back and rewatch it later on. And if you have questions later on, pop them in and I'll try and check it and get those answered for you. I'm also the author of Get the Girl. The book is actually behind me. Nice placement, right? Got to do it. I wrote this book to not just share some of my own personal dating experiences, but to give some feedback and some tips to help men and women both to be able to be more successful in your dating lives. Let's jump right in. Enough about me. I hate talking about myself, so if you've seen me before, you know this makes me so uncomfortable. Body language. Body language is nonverbal cues, nonverbal language. And the reason why this is important is because when you are all asked what you feel is the most important element of a relationship, you all say communication. Well, communication is broken down into 3 major parts. It's what you say, what comes out of your mouth, right? It's how you listen, it's your active listening skills. And then the third one is body language. And I hate to tell you, but body language is the number one way of communicating that cannot lie. It takes a lot of awareness to force your body to do something opposite of what you're trying to allow it to do. So you can ignore someone, you can say something that's not true, but your body is always going to be honest. It's always going to say what it really means. And I'm not trying to get you guys to the point where like you're experts in reading body language, because that's not going to happen in an hour. It's not going to happen in a day, a week. And for some people, it's a lifetime. But my theory is if you could be more aware of specific types of body language when you're going out on dates, then hopefully you'll start being more successful because you'll start to pick up on little nuances that you're seeing in your dates, maybe even in yourself. It's not just for you to be able to read your partner, but also to be able to be aware of what your body is saying to the other person as well. And like I said, I think that this is really, really important because it's going to increase your ability to successfully date. If you hadn't noticed, I love to talk with my hands. I think that's the Italian in me, or maybe it's the New Yorker in me. I don't know. But um, I'm like, if you want to read my body language this whole time, go for it because I'm very expressive with my body. And it's really a great way to communicate, to be honest. I'm not saying you have to go walking around talking with your hands by any means. But your body language is going to really tell someone what you're really thinking and what you're really feeling. And, for someone like me, my face is really what's very expressive. I might say I like something, but my face might say something else. So it's really going to be helpful just in general for you to learn just a few. We're not going to go crazy today. I'm not going to there's a whole book on it. There's books and books and books about body language. I just want to kind of touch on a few really important ones that hopefully will help you to be more successful in dating. All right, let's jump in. So, I want to tell, well, look at how that happened. We just really jumped in. I think we have a little, Houston, we have a problem. Well, that's interesting. Okay. So for some reason, my slides are off. So give me 1 second. This happens. Yeah, what are you going to do? That's not supposed to be jumping like that. So let me just do a quick check here. Nope. Don't know what happened. All right. Give me 1 second. Let me redo this here. Let me take that down and pop up, hopefully, the correct one. Sorry about that, guys. I guess these things happen, right? Give me 1 quick second, and I'm going to get the correct slides back in. Wouldn't be technology if we didn't have a few hiccups, right? And now you really know it's live as well. So there's always that. All right. Let's try this again. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Okay. So you probably are going to recognize these, the 5 most common nonverbal cues that you will probably be aware of on a first date. Eye contact. Obviously, eye contact is super important. Eye contact is a tricky one because eye contact says a lot about a lot of things and can look very differently. I'm not going to dive into if your eyes go up to the right or down to the left or any of that, because if we could do like an entire week just on eye contact. But I just want you to be really aware of the most common ones that I think people look for when they are on a date. So eye contact, smiling, either touch or leaning in, playing with your hair, which my hair's back, so I can't even give you the example. That was a mistake on my part. And fidgeting, if you're not sure what I mean by fidgeting, it's not necessarily fidgeting in your seat, but it's like playing with things. So if you're at like a dinner table and you're playing with the fork or you're playing with the cup or whatever it is, if I'm holding my mug here and I'm fidgeting with it, or if I'm playing with it, or that's more of the fidgeting body language that I'm talking about. So these are the 5 most common that people look for and try to read on a first date. And they are also the most misread nonverbal cues out there. We often look at someone's eye contact and say they're interested, or if they're smiling. If you and I are on a date right now and I'm sitting here and I'm fidgeting with my cup, maybe we're on a coffee date because I have a coffee cup in my hand, and I'm playing with the cup and I'm smiling and I'm making a lot of eye contact. Maybe my hair is down and I'm kind of twirling it a little bit. And you think, damn, she's totally into me. there is definitely going to be a second date. And then I either ghost you, which is awful, or tell you like, hey, look, you seem really nice, but I don't think there's a romantic interest. And you think to yourself, why am I not getting these second dates? I think the first date goes really, really well. And then it turns out no second date. Well, there's a reason, because often these are misread. These are misread cues. We are taught to have good eye contact, especially for work purposes. So if you are a leader in your industry, you're going to be very charismatic. And these qualities here are charismatic qualities. Let me give you an example. So talking about eye contact, you're on your first date and you're trying to read the eye contact. They have really good eye contact. Great. But what if they don't have good eye contact? What if they're, some people do like this really rapid, frequent blinking, and it's usually a sign of being stressed. It's probably something they do whenever they feel stressed. So it's not just about you, it could be about any situation. People get nervous on first dates. They may look calm, they may look cool and collected, but I guarantee you, everyone feels a little tinge of nerves. Some people are sweaters, some people are easy, it's easier for them to kind of hold it back and you can't really tell, but most people still get nervous on a first date, especially if they're attracted to you. A couple other things to look for eye contact is the closed eye. So if they, I think you guys can see me okay. If we're in the middle of a conversation and you all of a sudden ask me something that makes me uncomfortable, not extreme, it doesn't have to be extreme by any means. Body language is not always about extreme attraction or discomfort or anything like that. But if I all of a sudden close my eyes and I'm trying to tell you something, I'm still talking, but my eyes are closed the entire time I'm talking like this, I'm really uncomfortable. So when you see people do this, it's because they're uncomfortable in the situation. They could be very uncomfortable with the conversation. The rest of their body language will really tell you if it's the whole situation in general, but it could just also be the topic of conversation. If you notice that they are having a conversation like this and they're maintaining eye contact, and all of a sudden their eyes do the closed thing or the fluttery thing, or they're gazing all over the place, they're really uncomfortable with this conversation. So that's a good opportunity for you to shift the conversation to something else. The same thing with avoiding. I love this picture I chose, the I'm bored. If your date is, for the most part, has been really focused on you, and now all of a sudden you're in a conversation or you're talking about something, and he or she is looking here and she's looking there and he's looking over there and they're over here, and oh yeah, there you are, I forgot about you. Okay, be mindful. The more that their attention is spread out, more their eye contact is looking elsewhere, you're losing them. You're losing their attention. Wrap it up and change topics. Okay. So I want to tell you some things to look out for when you are on first dates. Fronting. If you haven't heard of fronting, fronting is your body position. I partially did this today so I could stand up and have some room to show you. If you are fronting, you are showing your entire front. So think of it in terms of maybe you meet someone at a bar, or you go to a singles mingle event and you're walking around and you have your glass of whatever in your hand, and you meet someone and you immediately walk up to them because you're attracted to them. You're probably fronting, which means that your toes and legs are facing them, your torso area is facing them, and your top, which is your head, is facing them. Now they start to bore you and your head starts to slowly turn and they're boring you more, and now your torso turns, and now you're looking for a way out, and you're all of a sudden changed your stance. So you might be like half in, half out. Now your whole body is. Okay. So when we're fronting, we are fully attentive to that person. And this is going to be tricky if you're sitting on a date. You can't really do this. If you're standing, great. And this might be really good for you if you're trying to meet people in person and you're tired of the app. So you're going to networking events and you're going to singles events and you're out and trying to meet people in group settings. Really look at how their body is, because if the whole thing's at you, they're fronting you, they full attention, right? But if they're kind of half in, half out, or their head is constantly turning, then you're losing their attention. Okay. First date cues to really hone in on when it comes to body language. There's 3 major ones that I really want to talk about today. It's the self-soothing cues to look for, blocking cues, and distancing cues. I think that instead of trying to break down all of these, eye contact and a smile and read this and read that, I decided to break it down into these very specific cues to look out for. So the first one is the self-soothing cues. When we are self-soothing, our body language is saying that we are trying to calm ourselves. It's the ability to ground yourself in uncomfortable situations. Watch out for these, because if someone engages in one of these, it doesn't always mean that they're self-soothing, but usually this is what this means. So let me give you some examples. Let's just dive in. So the rubbing of the hands, be careful of this one because it could literally mean their hands are cold. You notice how I hold it like this? I'm warming my hands. My hands are actually legitimately cold right now. So this is kind of nice. So this is really just me trying to warm my hands, right? But if it's repetitive behavior, something like this, like that first picture that guy's doing, this is self-soothing, right? That repetitive touching. Or the rubbing of the neck. The biggest one you're going to probably see for women is, I can't believe I put my hair up. I needed it down for this. When we play with our hair and we twirl it, right? So if any of you were with me last month when I talked about flirting, we talked about playful flirts, and playful flirts will often play with their hair and they will touch themselves, not sexually, don't be gross, but they will touch themselves in a playful way. Maybe they'll play with their lip or they'll touch things in their area. The hair is a big one, right? Playful flirts will play with their hair a lot. And it's very common to think that if she's playing with her hair, that she's flirting. But she could also be twirling her hair to soothe herself. And it's not a negative thing. It's also not always this amazingly positive thing either. So be mindful of the fact that some of these behaviors, some of this body language that you've been trained to think is flirting may not always be flirting, especially the hair twirling. The hair twirling could just be the way that she calms herself and stays grounded during the conversation or during the date. Another one that's really popular, but most people don't pay attention to, and this one's kind of hard for me to show you because I'm not sitting, is if you're sitting down and you rub the tops of your legs where your quads are, it's not a cold thing. When you're cold, that's not where you usually rub. It's a soothing thing, and it's a very, very subconscious soothing technique. I've seen people do it sitting at a bar when they're next to someone, because you're so close to that person that they'll rub the tops of their legs, and it's just to soothe themselves a little bit. So mindfulness around some of the body language that we see on a date that is not necessarily flirting It's just a way for them to self-soothe. The next one I want to talk about is blocking cues. And this one you're probably very much aware of, hopefully, but let's go over it just in case you're not. Blocking, when you have body language that's blocking, you're trying to protect yourself. You're trying to create a boundary from another person. I see this one a lot at bars. If you're sitting at the bar, I know a lot of people like to sit at the bar on a first date. And it's fine. I'm not in any way suggesting don't do that. But this is when you can really see this body language. So there's a couple things. One is obviously the arms being folded across the front of the body. That's a really good way to create a barrier to protect yourself. But the other one we forget to look at is the shoulder elbow block, right? So if I'm at the bar, my date's next to me on my left here, and I'm sitting like this, and I'm looking and turning and talking to him like this. Even if my body turns a little bit and I still leave my arm here, then I'm still blocking. I'm still creating this barrier so that I can feel more comfortable. And maybe over time, I eventually move my arm back. Like if I was in a chair, the back of the chair, and I'm leaning, and now I'm really open. Now I'm fronting. So I'm being vulnerable with this person and I'm being very inviting. But as long as my arm is there, I'm blocking. I'm keeping some distance. I don't know you well enough. I feel more comfortable if I'm creating this space. I'm also forcing you to stay in your bubble and I get to stay in my bubble. You can't cross over if there's an arm in the way or if I'm like this. So it creates this boundary and it allows us to feel very protected. And it drives us right into our distancing. When we have distancing cues, this allows us to maintain our bubble, to keep our space. This is the arm's length. And I know I popped up this picture of these two kids. I hope these kids aren't on a date, but it's just kind of funny because we went through all of that, like 6 feet distancing, and it kind of plays into part of the issues that we're having now with dating. We went, a year and a half, 2 years, I don't even know what it was anymore now, where it was all about 6 feet distancing, social distancing. And now we're trying to date again. Now we're trying to reconnect with people, and it can still be getting in the way. So just be really aware that sometimes people need a little extra space because they're still a little concerned about germs. But there is a thing called distancing zones. There are 4 zones on a date. Number 1 and number 2 here are going to be the 2 that you're really going to pay attention to. 3 and 4 are a little bit more for social settings, networking events, singles events, big group dynamics. And you'll pay a little bit more attention to 3 and 4 for those. But if you're on a date, number 1 and number 2 are your big tells here. Okay, so you have your intimacy zone, which is 0 to 18 inches. That's really close. And you have your personal zone, the 18 inches to 4 feet. I know it's a big gap, but that's usually where most people like to be on a first date, is that personal zone, not in the intimacy zone. Here's the thing. If you are a polite flirt, again, going back to last month's masterclass that we did, and if you haven't seen it, it's fine. It's in the group and it's also on YouTube where you can go back and watch it. But if you are a polite flirt, that intimacy zone on a first date is a hard and fast no-go. You need to stay out of the intimacy zone for a polite flirt. And you might be asking yourself, okay, Andrea, how the hell do I know that this person is a polite flirt? Well, go back and watch it. No, I'm just kidding. If you can't tell someone is flirting, then more than likely they're going to fall into that sincere or polite flirt, maybe even a traditional flirt. But this is going to play, all of these things play huge roles together. And I'm not saying you have to become an expert in any of these. You're probably going to walk away from today with like one or two things that you remember, because I can't help myself but throw just a shit ton of information at you, which is also why I record them. So then that way you can go back and rewatch them. But a polite flirt is not going to be comfortable in that intimacy zone. That personal zone, that 18 inches to 4 feet, that is a really good space to be in for a first date. Which brings me to dinner dates or lunch, but anything that you're sitting at a table. Now, there's that age-old debate, right, of whether or not you sit across from someone or if you sit next to them in the booth, right? I know some of you are those next to people in the booth, and it's the misconception here is that these two people sitting next to each other in the booth are more intimate, because you're thinking to yourself, well, there's that intimacy zone. We have 0 to 18 inches between us, for sure. So isn't this more intimate? Because if you're across the table, you're going to be more in that 18 to 4 feet. So we're further away. Now we're in the personal zone. So sitting next to each other, isn't this more intimate? No, it's actually not. Sitting across from someone at a table is actually fronting. You're giving your full attention. When you're next to each other, you can easily get distracted, and there's no eye contact. You're sitting next to each other and you have to constantly turn to give eye contact. When someone is across from you, they have your eye contact. It's easier to focus in on them. You're fronting with them because your body is facing them. So you're in a fronting, so your attention is here. And you get to lean in. Hello, the lean in, which we're going to talk about, is a great way for you to see that they're interested. When you are, let me go back. When you're in this intimacy zone, right? If you're sitting next to each other, then sure, you might be physically close to each other, but that doesn't mean that they're interested in you, because now you can't see the eye contact and there's no fronting happening. So you don't know if you really have their attention. You can't read them as well. You don't know if they're really all that interested in what you're saying. So my big suggestion is, if you're on a dinner date or a lunch date or something that involves a table, be across from them, especially in the beginning, because then this way you can have their full attention and they can have yours as well. Okay, I said I was going to talk about leaning in, and I am, because I want to share my favorite nonverbal cues. And I'm just going to go in. Okay. So my number one favorite nonverbal cue to look for is the feet and the legs. Obviously, again, if you are sitting, it's so much harder to really see. If you are standing, though, this you can really, it's super cool. Go to a networking event and engage in conversation with people and just take a peek at where their feet are pointing. Okay, it's a lot of fun. I love to do this. It'll tell you where they are in the conversation. I know you can't see my feet. I am looking down like as if you can see my feet. My feet are obviously facing you guys right now because I'm trying to be very mindful of my fronting, so then that way you can engage with me, considering we are on a video right now. But if your feet right now, so here I am, my feet are this way. If my feet all of a sudden start to turn this way, and my legs are going that way too. So it's kind of your legs and your feet. It's kind of a package deal here. And your legs and your feet start to turn. So right now, my legs and feet are facing this way, but maybe my torso and my top is facing you still. My feet are going to always tell you what direction I really want to go. I'm not going to stand like this because it's more comfortable. I'm standing like this because it's comfortable because I'm considering this is more of a comfort direction for me to go that way. So looking at the direction of the feet and the legs will really help you to understand someone's comfort level too. So if you're at a singles event and you're talking to someone and they come in and they're full fronting and you're like, cool, feet and legs are on point, torso on point, top on point, I got their full attention. And as the conversation continues, now all of a sudden you notice that their feet are starting to shift, especially if their body is shifting constantly. That's that fidgeting again, right? This is that uncomfortable fidgeting. But be careful because fidgeting could also just be like, I have a low back injury from like years ago, and sometimes I start to fidget just because my low back starts to hurt. And standing in the same position can hurt over time. So be cautious. Some of these body language cues that you're looking for could just literally be I'm uncomfortable because my body hurts in some shape or form. But for the most part, if your feet are pointing a different direction, you want to go that direction. So be aware of where your date's feet are pointing. And that's a really good opportunity for you to actually realize, like, look, I think I'm losing this person. So I'm going to gracefully walk away from them and re-engage with them later on. That's a whole other lesson, but it's that idea of leaving them wanting more. The lean in and the lean out. So we hear a lot about the lean in, but nobody really talks about the lean out that happens. And I'm not trying to say I want you to manipulate your date in any shape or form, no manipulation. But if you are sitting at a table and you lean in and they lean in, well, now you know for sure. You're both probably fairly interested. If you lean into someone and they lean out, okay, too close, right? Especially if we're standing. So if we're, again, at an event and, here I am with my drink, my cup of water, and I'm trying to get closer and I'm leaning into you and you are leaning back, you are probably invading my personal space. You're in my bubble. It's pretty safe to assume that polite flirting might be a little bit higher on your style. And you're creating that distance boundary, right? That distancing cue of like, dude, intimacy zone, stay in your personal zone. So be mindful of these zones too, especially those two. That intimacy zone is 0 to 18 inches. That's a lean in. And the personal zone, the 18 inches to 4 feet, the lean out. If you, do I want to show this? If you really want to see if you're not sure somebody is interested, I find this easier to do if you're standing and communicating with someone. So say you're at a singles event or something like that, and you're interested in this person, but you're not really sure how they're feeling. And maybe you do the lean in and just a slight, it doesn't have to be huge. You don't need to lean in and talk to them like right here. That doesn't need to happen. You don't need to see the whites of their eyes. But if you do the lean in just ever so slightly and they don't move and they hold their ground and you go, oh, they didn't move. There's no lean in, there's no lean out. I don't know what to do. And then you lean out. If you notice that they do the lean in afterwards, okay, so now they're mirroring your movements. Okay, your bodies are having their own conversation. You do the lean in ever so slightly, then you do the lean out, and they lean in. Now you know that they're engaged in your conversation. Does it mean that they want to go home and have sex with you? No. So be cautious, okay? I just want to be really clear that reading body language on your dates does not mean that they want to run off and marry you or go home and have sex with you. It's just showing interest. Attention is interest. So you can see where their attention is and how interested they are. And hopefully this will help you to also be mindful of not boring them with certain conversations, which brings me to my number 3, the smile and eye combo. The other day, I was out at a bar with a friend watching a basketball game, and it was a big game. And I noticed a few couples around us at the bar. And one was behind us, so I can hear him, really clearly hear him. And the other one was down the bar a little bit. But I really couldn't help myself from watching these two couples because the one behind me is mansplaining the living shit out of this game to his girlfriend or the woman that he was with. I don't know if it was his girlfriend. It seemed like it. And all I could think was, dude, are you sure she actually wants this information? Maybe you don't need to explain every single moment to her, because I know you don't need to explain it to me and you're like in my ear. Anyways, the other couple down at the other end of the bar, he's pointing at the game, he's explaining things that are happening, and she is glazed over. So here's the trick about eye contact, right? She is staring at him, nonstop eye contact. It's like she's looking through him instead of at him. So I don't want you to get confused with, well, her eye contact is perfect. It's like right here. We are here. Great eye contact. Right. Sure. That prolonged eye contact when you're talking, paired with a lack of a smile and just looking at you, but not really reacting, is that glazed over look. I'm sure you get it sometimes when your boss explains things to you, or you have like board meetings and someone's talking and talking and talking, and you just glaze over. That's that smile eye combo that I'm talking about. It's actually a lack of smile and that really focused eye contact where it's those moments where you want to go up to someone and be like, hello, you there? Yeah, that is not good eye contact. And the lack of smile should tell you a lot. So here's my suggestion. If you're in a situation where I know you want her to be excited about the game, you're excited about the game, you really want her to be just as excited as you are. But look, dude, we can't all share the same hobbies and interests. And just because your date doesn't share the same hobbies and interests as you does not mean that it's not a good match. It might mean that these two guys probably should have gone out and watched this game with the bros. Just saying. If she's into it. I mean, obviously I'm there watching the game. I was there because my friend was really into the game and I can totally get on board. Like I can be a sports fan. It's easy enough for me to do, but not all women can do this and not all people want to do this. I know plenty of men who hate sports too. But for this example, be aware of the fact that, okay, you know what? This date was super cool. They came to watch the game with me, and I realized that they're not as into it as I am. So I'm going to watch the game, and I'm not going to explain every single move unless she asks. So now instead, I'm going to use a different style of communication, and I'm going to just ask her or him, if there's any, like, I know you're not a big fan. I appreciate you being here with me. This is super cool. And as soon as this game is over, full attention on anything that your date wants to talk about or do. Maybe they want to leave. Who knows? I want you guys to just be super aware and mindful of what is happening with your date when you're there. I really want you to be successful. I want you to have a second date. I want you to be able to leave a first date and not think, that was really great. I think they were totally into me, and then find out that they're not. Because that's a shitty feeling. We've all had that feeling where you've left a first date and thought it was really good, you really liked them, and it turns out they don't actually like you. And you can't figure out what the fuck went wrong. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on lives. I did. So I want you to be go back through this video if you have to. I know I talk really fast. I can't help it. There's just so much information I'm going to pack into these things. But body language will not lie to you. Body language will tell you everything you need to know about your date. On the flip side of that, do not overanalyze their body language. And most definitely do not call them out. That's just rude. Like, oh, you don't look like you're really interested. If they're standing there with their arms folded and they're kind of like this and they're having conversation, don't call them out and be like, oh, I feel like this isn't really going anywhere. Like, you're not really interested. Because there's a lot of reasons why we engage in specific body language, especially body language that protects us. The self-soothing stuff, the distancing, and the blocking cues. We often will do that if we're very nervous or fearful. And it's not that we're afraid to be on a date with you, but maybe you're on a date with someone who hasn't been on a date in years and they are just freaking the fuck out inside. You don't know. But what you do know and what you can do is be mindful of what their body language is saying and try and put them at ease. Take a deep breath, maybe lean out a little bit, give them some space, and engage in a conversation that's light and fun. I always tell my clients to go on a first date with your dating toolkit. In the back of your mind, you should have some icebreaker type ideas to get the conversation going. You don't want your first dates to feel like interviews. I talk about this a lot. That is the worst. I don't ever recall anyone coming back from an interview saying, oh my God, that was so much fun. I can't wait to do the next interview. No, they come back with, damn, I was good. I landed that job for sure. Phew, glad that's over. Or, oh my God, I really messed up that interview. I cannot believe I have to go doing this again to the next application. I've never once heard someone come out of an interview and say that it was the most fun that they've ever had, because they're not fun. So don't make your first dates into interviews. Go with topics to talk about. Be creative. Be clever on how you talk about things. Be fun, be silly, be light. Don't talk about exes. Let me repeat this. Do not talk about exes. Try to avoid religion if you can, unless you already know that you're on the same page. Don't talk about politics. Like, first dates are supposed to be fun. They're not interviews for life partners. They're just a nice way to meet a new person who is a complete stranger and see if you have anything in common for a second date, a longer date, another date. And don't overread their body language, but be mindful of what their body is saying to you. You know, be mindful of where their arms are and what they're doing. If you are a physical flirt and you touch them, do they recoil when you touch them, or do they lean into it? So the awareness of what their body is saying and doing on your first date is going to really help you to determine whether or not you're going to get a second date and whether or not you actually really want a second date with this person. So I hope this was helpful. There's just so much to talk about when it comes to body language. And yeah, I want to tell you guys really quickly before I let you go that I mentioned earlier, we're going to start doing group coaching, and they're going to be a variation of 4 or 6 week series. These next 2 that we have coming up are going to be live on our website in 2 days. On Friday, they go live on the site. We're going to do one about how to master online dating. It's going to be 6 weeks of group coaching where you get not just to pick my brain, but you'll have a group of other people who are going through the exact same thing you are going through. And so it's really nice to have that camaraderie. And then we're going to start on May 2nd, a 4-week series of dating on a budget, because, oh my God, this economy crap is killing everyone. $8 eggs is bullshit. So I want you to be able to still date just as frequently as you were before, even though now maybe you have to be a little bit more conscious of how much you're spending. For those of you who are watching in California, I know that going out for a dinner date can cost anywhere between like $150 to $200 if you're going somewhere super nice. And even if a lunch with some wine can still be upward towards $100 to $150 for a date. And then that really sucks too, right? If you leave the date and you're like, well, no second date, that's out $150. So I want to really help everyone understand like really creative, clever ways to date on a budget and have it fun and exciting still. With that said, I want to say thank you to everyone for being here. If you have questions, please let me know. I'm trying to kind of keep an eye on the questions on the other computer, and I don't see any, so I think we're good to go unless I'm missing something. And in that case, if I am, I'm terribly sorry because maybe it's not updating. And I will be sure to drop the answers in the comments. Again, thank you guys so much for being here with me today. I love doing these. We do these every single month. And if there's a specific topic that you would like me to cover, let me know and I will be sure to talk about it for the next one. The next mastermind will be in May, first Wednesday of every month. I hit a new topic and I will see you there. Thanks so much for being here with me. You guys are amazing.